people, it's me, Anja, my pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new Recent Reads video. The first book on this list is called The Unpopular Vote. This book is a YA contemporary following a trans-masculine main character who decides to run for student body president despite his politician father's wishes for him to stay stealth. I thought this book was so good and so fantastic. First of all, I loved the queer representation, particularly the transgender representation. I think that books about transgender people experiencing joy and happiness and love and value and care and community are so incredibly important, especially now with trans femicide constantly happening, and also like all the transphobia and homophobia that occurs. It's just so disheartening. I've been reading all of these messages from Juniper's like friends lately, and it just breaks my heart, honestly. If you don't know what I'm referring to, Juniper is a trans woman or a trans person that was recently murdered while doing her laundry last week, and she was a student at the University of Washington, I believe. I don't know. I also don't know her last name at all, so anyway, all that to say, I think that transgender representation is so important, and I think this book was so good. The characters are so well developed and so distinct. I loved the romance, I loved the friendships, I loved his relationship with his mother. Like, it was so good. I'm so excited for the author's next book, which I believe comes out at the end of May. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Night King's Court. This book is a YA fantasy following a sapphic main character who joins a mysterious, nocturnal, magical court of the Night King to find answers about her missing father. I thought this book was so fantastic and so good. First of all, I loved the magic so much. The world building is so immersive and so enchanting. I just really enjoyed the meticulous detail of it all. Second of all, I love the plot so much, and it was so intriguing and so engaging. It's been a really long time since I found a YA fantasy that I've truly fallen in love with from the very beginning. I also loved the characters so much. Like, this book is so excellent and it's so good. The sapphic romance was also very nice. I thought this book was so fantastic and so good. I think this book is a standalone just because Elisa typically writes fantasy standalones. I read a previous book by her, and I had really high expectations prior to going into this book, and this book definitely met those high expectations. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Smash or Pass. This book is a YA contemporary following a sapphic autistic main character who discovers that she's a lesbian through a summer of volleyball camp. And frankly, I discovered pretty early on that I don't really enjoy Birdie's writing because they depend on telling versus showing, and I just prefer figurative language rather than so much yapping and so much telling and so much dialogue. And that meant to me that many of the side characters were conflated with each other, and I couldn't really tell them apart. And the sapphic romance didn't have much development, and I understand that this is just a symptom of a sports romance, but there wasn't a lot of the sport itself featured in this book, if that makes any sense. Although I do appreciate the autism representation, and I do appreciate Ellie's journey of accepting her autism over time. That was done really well, but I will say that everything else felt really underdeveloped. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 3 stars, so take that as you will. The next book on this list is called Forgive Me Not. This book is a YA fantasy graphic novel that follows a young princess who discovers her true changeling identity. I thought this book was so good and so fantastic. First of all, I loved the illustrations so much because they're so vibrant and so pretty and so stunning. Second of all, the sapphic romance was so cute and so well done. Typically, I don't really enjoy enemies to lovers, but this book made so much sense, and I just really enjoyed it so much. The story and the plot and the characters and everything blended so well, and I'm so excited to read more from this author. I think I recently borrowed another graphic novel by them, so I'm excited to read it. And I've read, I think, another graphic novel by them in the past. But anyway, all that to say, this book was really good and really awesome. So with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it because I love sapphic fantasies. Anyway, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The last book on this list is called The Second Life of Snap. This book is a middle-grade dystopian following a young main character who befriends a dying robot, and it's set in an apocalyptic world. And I rated this book 3 stars because even though I enjoyed the plot and the world building and the characters, this book reminded me of how bleak the future is. Like, I know now we're not really in an era where robots are replacing humans, but it really annoys me to see so many people casually use, for example, ChatGPT to do their homework. I think that that's really bad. I've always been so against AI, especially when it comes to doing schoolwork and homework and writing essays and love letters and all of these things, especially in how it replaces creativity and human compassion. And I really hate that these books are personifying and almost humanizing robots. I don't know, maybe I'm reaching since robots don't have a soul and they're literally a machine. I don't know. Anyway, all that to say, I rated this book 3 stars, but since it reminded me of the future and the ways in which we seem to be heading, it really, I don't know. I didn't like this book as much as I could have. But yeah, I'm extremely anti-AI, and I think it's a bad thing that robots in Star Wars, for example, have distinct personalities because they're not a human. Why do people like them so much? I don't know. Anyway, all that to say, I rated this book 3 stars, and I'm sure it's good on its own. It's just that it wasn't my taste. So, take it or leave it. The actual last book on this list is called Holloway. This book is a YA magical realism historical fiction because it follows a young main character from 2021 who accidentally travels back in time to 1946. And I thought this book was so good and so fantastic because I love the found family that she found in the asylum. And I loved also the autism representation featured in the main character because I love this book so much. The meticulous writing has always come to life so well. I've read multiple books by Elana in the past, and it makes so much sense, honestly, that the author is autistic because same. I think this book is so good. I love the characters and the writing and the world building and the found family and everything. This book is so excellent and it's so well done. I loved the relationship between the main character and her mother so much. I've been seeing lately so many movies about mother-daughter relationships, and I would say that my favorite movie to recommend is Queen of My Dreams, which I would say is a POC version of Lady Bird. And unfortunately, I have to compare that movie to a white movie because people have seen Lady Bird, but most people have not seen Queen of My Dreams. But anyway, this book was so good and so fantastic. I really enjoyed every single second of it. So with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. So in conclusion, first of all, I would be leaving Juniper Blessings obituary in my description box, except that I've learned that they have been dead named and misgendered in their obituary, which I think is incredibly disrespectful, but also it speaks volumes about the transphobia in this country and also in many countries as well. I think that transgender people deserve respect in every lifetime, but especially also in their death. I am pre-filming this video May 16th, 2026, so I have no idea how many more transgender people have been slaughtered since then, which is an awful sentence to say, but it absolutely, again, speaks volumes about the transphobia that has been happening in this country for many, many years and many decades, and it's so sad and so disheartening, which is why I think that queer representation is so incredibly important, and I will continue to be an ally to the queer community now and forever. So anyway, yeah, I feel like every time I say my stance on the queer community, I don't need to say it more times because my stance has always been incredibly obvious. But anyway, second of all, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope that you don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the sunflower emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!